have a question for you.
I may have an answer.
Okay, so preface this with,
What?
I do not go here.
Okay.
Just visiting, passing through. Also, I'm deeply pro-life.
What does that mean?
I enter into debates constantly about it with people who are actually enemies, and
Okay.
what I can tell that I gauge here, this is a very pro-life church.
Oh, I know that. I'm very aware of
from
that.
New York City. Like, these people are not your enemies. They're people who.
They're not our enemies.
No, but I do think you somehow conceptualize them as your enemies. At least on an emotional scale, I think you see them as your enemies.
I see them as Christians who don't care about their neighbors being murdered. Why?
That's a pretty broad generalization. Each one of these people is an individual.
Well, based on the overall experience, because we've been here at least twice before. Like, well, people. I mean, we've been asked that. You know, we're pro-life. You're preaching in the choir. Why you're here? And I tell them that's exactly why we're here. Because when you need help, which we need a lot of help, and not many Christians doing this, you go to a good man's house to ask for help. You don't go to like somewhere else where there are wicked people. You like a bar or somewhere else. You go somewhere where there's good people to ask for help. That's why we come to good churches. We assume that this is a good church, and you come there to ask for help because, like I've heard a few times here, you're preaching to the choir, but I asked them, well, where was the choir yesterday at the abortion mill on Roosevelt Road? It wasn't there. There were more Catholics than Christians out there. The choir wasn't there. Where was the choir at Downers Grove? The Downers Grove abortion mill wasn't there. They had Catholics out there, but not Christians. Just a couple of us. So the problem is the choir isn't showing up to where the greatest need is. They think that throwing money at an organization is enough. A pro-life organization, a pregnancy resource center, and they think that being pro-life is enough. But I'd ask them, tell me how many children are saved by just being pro-life? It's like I could say I believe in God, but that doesn't change anything about me. That doesn't mean I'm saved. You know, just believing in God. And so that like the problem is so many people are pro-life, so many Christians are pro-life or anti-abortion, but they're not doing anything about it. They're not lifting a finger to abolish abortion. And for whatever reason, I mean, I see many reasons for that, but that's what I've seen for not just here, but for 10 years. I've seen Christians time and time again that don't care. They're apathetic. They for example, if you had a man come over here with a gun and was going to start shooting people, there's not a person here, I trust, that would say, well, that's someone else's calling to stop him. I'm not called to that. I'm going to let him gun everybody down out here. He wouldn't say that. Even a non-Christian would not say that. But when it comes to the murder of preborn children, we say that. Most Christians say that. That's not my calling to help them. I'm going to let them get butchered. I may throw money at an organization, but that's all I'm going to do. That's the overall response I've seen in a decade, and it's pathetic. I mean, they don't act consistently. And a big reason is because we're so used to abortion happening in America that it's a status quo. A lot of people have already seen these images, not all, but many. They're used to it, and it's kind of seared their conscience to where to them they don't have to take action. That's a special calling for somebody else. Because I've heard that many times. You know, that's your calling. I'm like, it's not my calling. It's what God commands in His Word, and it's what most Christians are ignoring. And from what I can tell, many here are ignoring it. I'm not saying everybody, but many here are ignoring it. And a couple of the ushers have blocked our signs, and because they're more concerned about children seeing these signs than they are about their children actually being murdered.
So, I agree with a lot of the things you say. In fact, I actually said a lot of the things you say about apathy. It makes me sick.
It should. It's disgusting.
No, it definitely does. But you think you think this is the best way to wake the sheep up? Do you think that's the best way?
Oh, I've looked at other ways. Do I think it's the best way? If there's a better way, I'll do it.
It's the flashiest way, and it's the most gratifying way.
No, it's not. Believe me,
there's a little.
It's not.
No, I've done stuff like this, man. There's like a little rush of adrenaline that you get from like you are the voice. It's like the kind of prophet affectation that you can take on here. Like we're waking up the sleepers. Everybody look at me. And I know that's probably not a conscious thing, but I feel like there is at least a little bit of that motivation driving this. And I see it as less functional and pragmatic and more just self-gratifying. It could be. I prayed for you all before, and
Okay.
I just
Have you joined us?
if I joined you out here doing this.
Well, no, I mean just anywhere. Like, have you
I
joined?
protested? Yes.
Okay, like, I mean, have you gone in front of churches to do it?
No, because I don't think that the best way to do this is to alienate your allies,
So what's the best way?
to fight your enemies. and to
Well,
make
we're already
converts.
doing that.
There are times here, right? This is a church. These are people, normal people. There are some of them apathetic, some of them really not.
I'd say
know
most of
people
them.
who go.
Based on what I've seen,
Well,
their response.
you know, you can't have had an in-depth conversation and gotten to know the life of every single person here.
Well,
Everyone-
I mean, when they pass by you and don't engage and just look the other way.
Partly because they're trying to go to church, man. Like.
Well, they're trying to go to church,
living.
and yet they're faced with a Holocaust. You know, maybe that should stall them for a few minutes, and they have time to talk to us. That church service is not so important that they have to ignore the sufferings of the preborn neighbor.
I don't think they're necessarily ignoring the sufferings of the preborn neighbor because this is a pro-life church. Maybe they just already know.
Yeah, what are they doing about it? That's the question.
I don't know. I don't know what these people are doing about it. Some of them are probably doing something. Some of them are probably doing nothing.
Probably most.
Some of them are.
Based on what I've seen.
Well, that's.
I've heard them. I've heard them tell them
generalize.
I've heard them tell me what ministries that they're part of. Abolishing is not one of them. They don't. It doesn't seem like. And I'm trying to be careful here because I don't want to be. Because I can't read their hearts. Only God can. But what I've seen is there are a few here who care. I mean, no one's told me they're going to start coming out to the abortion mill or hitting the streets, doing this on a regular basis, or talking to people about this constantly, acting with the urgency that's necessary. But and we do. I mean, we go in front of churches. We go in a lot of other places. We go everywhere, and I mean the churches. It's like one thing that I've been asked is, why don't you come meet with us first, the pastors, the elders, and maybe we can talk. And I'm not opposed to that at all, but the problem is that's been done for so many years by so many people who are trying to get their brethren involved in this, and their response has been terrible. It's been disgusting. It's like you go to 1,000 churches and maybe 3 respond, if that. And even of those 3, that doesn't even mean they're going to get involved. They may talk to you, but nothing may come of it. So and I've talked to a lot of Christians who've been involved in this for decades who. They told me that same response. We've gone to churches and the response is cold. They're not going to do anything. So it's like
wrong. That's wrong of them to not do anything, to not care about this issue. I agree with them. Yeah. The reason I'm not here talking to you is because I care about this issue so much. Like, I want this to work. I don't think it does. Have you seen it? Have you seen this approach work? Because I think what it brings.
Yes, I have.
On an emotional level, at least what I see, it seems like a total attack on the identity of these people. Like, you pathetic suburbanites, you're completely asleep. We are the only ones with knowledge, and it feels slightly arrogant. Actually, no, I don't want to use the euphemism. It feels arrogant. It feels aggressive, and it feels like you're attacking them, even if that's not your heart. Even if that's not your heart, I think that is definitely what comes across to these people.
I'm sure it does. I mean, when you see the signs, you automatically think protesters, and I admit I may not always show love in the way I talk to people. Even when I was talking to the usher out here, I was questioning if I showed love to him in the way I should have. Not agreed with him, but when he was blocking my sign, because sometimes I do get a little aggressive because I'm frustrated.
Yeah.
And the apathy of Christians frustrates me. And sometimes I realize that I go too far or I'm overly aggressive, and I'm a pretty calm person. But the problem is that as churches I don't know everybody in this church, obviously, but as churches like this, that say they're pro-life, but they're not doing anything, they don't have any urgency to end the abortion Holocaust. You won't see them out at the abortion mills. I know because I've been there, and there's hardly anybody there. Out in the streets holding signs. I mean, I would know about that if they were. I think I would know about that. And it's just there's no urgency. And I mean, I've seen at churches I've gone to, like I've actually attended, no urgency. They're not going to come out to the abortion mills. They're not going to treat this with the same urgency they'd have for their born neighbors being murdered. And we're ageist. We discriminate against our preborn neighbors because their murders are out of sight, out of mind. They're behind closed doors. And it's been going on for so long that we think it's no big deal.
I would say some of them are ageist. Some of us are ageist. Like I think it's important to see every person in here as an individual who has a different story, who has a different story into how much they care about this. Like my roommate and I, the week after next, are going out to the abortion clinic in Naperville, the fourth largest one, right? Yeah, we're gonna go out there and try and save some children from dying, and we see them as children. These are things that like we care about, and I also think that the apathy is not particular to, abortion.
I know that.
I think apathy is a common
rare.
ill of the American church, I think.
I agree.
So and
it's not just with this. It's with homosexual marriage. It's with it's with the suicide epidemic. It's with people dying and going to hell.
I think it's with their Christianity in general.
Yeah.
And I still say I'm not sure that this is the way to fix that. And I'm not positive that it's something you can fix on a group level by protesting people who are at least closer to you than the ones who are actually murdering the children, who are at least closer. Like I think I've had debates with the people. I go to Wheaton College, and I've got a slightly different perspective than a lot of the kids there. They grew up in an evangelical tradition. I'm a new Christian, like year and a half.
I went to a Christian college too.
Okay, gotcha. So I'll have debates with them about this, about other issues. Transgenderism is a huge one because I'm in psychology, and there's the whole debate about whether your brains are actually different. Absurd. But it's not by what I've seen just from personal experience. The way when I debate, it's by winning friends. It's by letting them see, oh, everyone who disagrees with me isn't a monster. They're just a normal person. They have good points, and then you plant the seed, let it grow, keep being friends, keep being kind to them. And it's a slow, painful, not flashy process in the least. And you have to bear some of the emotional pain of being shut down over and over and over.
For 10 years, it's taken its toll.
Yes.
Because I do that too. I've done that, and it's worn on me. The apathy of Christians, it's made me sick to my stomach over the years. It's taken a terrible toll, and I mean, it doesn't show like on my physical features, but it's taken its toll, and it's. I mean, when I returned back home from college last year, I was sick to my stomach from the apathy. I was brokenhearted, and I was just sick of it. And just you get to a point where you're so brokenhearted, you just want to walk away for a time. But I found I can't do that. It's like even if most Christians aren't going to do anything about this, or aren't going to care, a few will, most won't. From what I've seen, I have to, and it. I mean, I engaged in conversations about it at the school I went to, Bob Jones, and to my surprise, there were actually somewhere between 10 to 14 students who joined me at the abortion mill, including my first roommate. And I was surprised by that. And I mean, many others I talked to them and they didn't seem that terribly interested to get involved. But the faculty I saw apathy there too. And like, they didn't give much attention to the Roe v. Wade anniversary. In fact, they gave no attention to it until I talked to them about it. And I was really upset by the apathy there, by the students and the faculty. And honestly, like the parents who raise their children, because they're obviously not raising them, from what I see, to care about this Holocaust. Because they were conceived during this Holocaust, but both of us were. And parents are not raising their children to become warriors in this battle, and in the spiritual battle in general. I saw what I consider mature Christians there, but a lot more aren't doing anything about this, and I don't know why. But because it's not a special calling as I've heard many say it is. That's not my calling. It's like, well, read the Bible. God commands us to rescue those who are being taken away to death.
It's injustice. I think that
it's a terrible injustice. It's the greatest in the world. But if you look at the actions of most Christians in our culture, you wouldn't think that this even exists, because it's just like slavery in the 1800s. Most Christians look the other way.
Yeah, I know that one.
And our response is the same. Just like in Nazi Germany, our response is the same to the Christians who look the other way while their neighbors are being taken to the death camps.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of the things that you're saying, and I've said those things, like those exact words, the Nazi.
Yeah. So did that wake people up, or did they just remain asleep?
Sometimes people, it's one thing about it is not conceptualizing the people as plugged into the matrix or something like that. They need to be woken up. It's just people that are kind of half asleep is the way that I see it. It's
I've seen people like that.
It's like
they even want to do something, they just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like they want to care more, but it's not in them at the moment. I've seen that. And I had a friend at my school who, a good friend of mine who's older, we were in my room one evening, and what it took was, I don't think he had previously taken any action. Once I made the connection between Nazi Germany and this Holocaust, the light bulb went on. And he was ready to go out. And he's still going out there, as far as I know, every Saturday. And that's all it took for him. And I've done that with others, and they remained asleep to an extent. And so, I mean, I know for people it's a different thing. For me, the Lord used Christian radio to, I didn't know about this Holocaust. I wouldn't say I was asleep because I didn't even know about it, because no one was talking about it. But when I heard Christian radio, they mentioned Planned Parenthood, they mentioned this Holocaust, they mentioned an abortionist nearby me, and the light bulb just went on.
Yeah.
And I recognized that for years, that the Lord uses different things, but it's like we have to be patient, but at the same time urgent, because you can only have so much patience when your neighbors are being murdered. It's like if a gunman were to come out here and start shooting people, you can't do what people say about this Holocaust and get into a relationship with him and try to change him. You know, he's gonna kill people. But that's
a slightly false equation there, but I see the point you're trying to make.
Well, I mean, the difference is that happens one time. Well, I mean, in America it seems like it happens every day, but it happens, like, once in a while.
Yeah.
This is happening every day all across America.
Yeah.
And virtually every pharmacy, children are being murdered by mothers who may not even know they're murdering their child.
Yeah.
Through hormonal birth control. And there's just no urgency because it's so normalized. Just like slavery was so normalized that people just, no big deal. That's what abortion is today in American Christianity. It's normalized, not a big deal. One of many issues.
To some people.
To most people, from what I've seen.
That's my number one issue when I talk to someone politically. Everything else I can go back and forth with. I'll like leeway, but if you're, pro-choice or